Hi, in this tutorial I want to create a simple little app with some basic JavaScript features and some custom designs. So this is what our app is going to do. It's going to get some input and it's going to output those values in a table. So it's going to be a dynamic table which gets new values as and when we input an entry. Okay, so let me show you how that works. So let's say name could be there are placeholders here, as you can see. So the name could be, let me keep it at John Smith, and then age is 18 and grade is A. When I do that, and then I'll click on input entry. So there's a new row of the table created with all our entry details, right? And then we could probably change this to Mary, maybe 20, grade B, or maybe S. Who knows? See, we have another entry, and then something like that. So as and when we type a new entry, we'll get as and when we type a new entry and input it, we'll get that entry outputted in our table. So that's how our app is going to work. So let's start creating that app right now. So let me go back to my brackets. First of all, I'm going to create all the files I'll need. I already have my folder opened up here. As you can see here, get details display in table is my folder. I've opened it up, and inside that folder I'll be creating all the files that I need. One of those is index.html, and then there's style.css for our designs, and then there's script.js for our JavaScript codes. And in index.html, let me first create a basic HTML skeleton. Okay, so this is going to be our starting point of our code. Okay, so you can type it out if you don't have brackets. I have brackets and I have their built-in plugins, so I use that. And then in language I can say EN because it's going to be an English app. I mean, the content is going to be in English. And then title, it could be the same. Get details, display in table. Okay, and then what else? Yeah, I have to link to my style sheet first. So relationship is going to be style sheet, and then type is text CSS, and then the href is the link of the file, which is style.css. And then in here, let me link to my JavaScript code as well, JavaScript file as well. So script sres script.js. So that's how you link to your JavaScript files. And then close the script. This is an empty tag, so it doesn't have a closing link tag. Okay, but this is not an empty tag, so it has a closing script tag. And then we can go back to our body. Okay, let me leave a space here. So this particular code is basically going to be, this is how you write comments in HTML. Okay, so comments aren't actually processed by your browser, it's just for your reference. So what we are going to do here is we're going to write a code to get multiple student details. Okay, as you saw in the final output, we're going to get multiple student details like name, age, and their grades, and display them in a table. Okay, so this is going to be our objective. So we have to create HTML skeleton, HTML elements that can do all of these. So first of all, we need multiple inputs that can these inputs. So 1, 2, 3, we need 3 inputs, and then we need a button, and then we need a table with just the heading for now, because we're going to add all the other rows with our JavaScript code. So let's start creating all of that. So first of all, let me create a container. So all of these inputs are going to be inside containers, because that will make my styling much easier. You'll see once we get into it. So div id, okay, div id is equal to name div. Okay, sorry. Before that, the whole thing has to be inside a container as well. I'll tell you how that works. The entire input part right here, all of it is going to be inside one particular div element. Div elements are block elements that take up the whole width of the page. So, and we'll call it container like this. Okay, so it has an unique ID called container, so we can reference this particular ID to style it or to manipulate the element in JavaScript or so on and so forth. So div ID is equal to container, and inside that we're going to have multiple divs which hold each of our inputs. So the first div is going to be, it's going to have an ID called name div, so it's going to be for our name element. Okay, and inside that we can create, okay, and also let me give it a class. So when I style it, I can, style multiple inputs at the same time. So all of our inputs is going to have the same class input. So when I get to the CSS part of it, I can style all of them at the same time. And then, so ID is equal to name div class. So class IDs are unique, okay? Only an element can have one ID and another element cannot copy the same ID, but classes are not unique. So multiple elements can have the same class name. So that's why we can use it in stylings. For example, as you can see here, all our inputs have the same design, same styling. So we can give it a class. So we can give the same stylings for all of our inputs without having to waste lines of code. So that's how it works. So in here, let's put our input, and before that, let's have our label here. This label, name, this label, it's not going to be inside the input. And then our input ID is going to be name, and then the type of the input is text. And then as you saw before, it has a placeholder called John Smith, just so your users know what needs to be typed in here. So input is also, as you can see here, input is also an empty tag. So let's end it. Okay, and then similarly, let's copy this, and we have 3 more inputs just like it, and we need to change certain things in here. Okay, what are those things? As usual, the class is input here, but the ID is going to be, okay, we don't need an ID in here. Sorry, I made a mistake. We don't need IDs here at all. So these don't need IDs because we're not going to be referencing them separately, so we don't need IDs for these. So name in here, age, and then this is going to be grade, and here the ID is going to be, input ID is going to be age, and the placeholder is going to be 18, and then the input ID is going to be grade, and then placeholder is going to be A. Okay, so these are, sorry, A. I wrote J. Okay, so these are our input IDs, and that ends our inputs. And then below here, we can add our button. So to add a button, you have to use the button tag. So button ID is equal to entry. Okay, so this is our ID, and then here input entry. Okay, that's going to be our button text that you see here. So input entry is our button text. Let's give that here. And then finally, we're going to have to create our table. So table is also going to have an ID called display. Okay, because we have to reference this table later on in our script.js file, that is our JavaScript code. So it's going to have an ID called display, and then let's create our first row. To create rows and tables, you have to type tr, and within that you can either have table headings or TD. TD is for normal rows with normal text, and TH is for enhanced text. You can call it bolded text for headings. Okay, so our first row here is going to be our heading tag. So we have to write TH. The first TH is name, and then the second TH is age, and then the third TH is grade. Okay, so we have our TH here, and we have our first row. Okay, so we don't have to create anything else at all, because we are going to create new rows for our table from our JavaScript code. So that ends our HTML. Okay, so just 31 lines of code and we've finished our HTML part of our little app. In the next video we can style our app to make it look just like this, but for now let me show you what we have so far. Let me save this here so you know what we've achieved so far. So go back. See, very ugly looking app, and it doesn't do anything because we don't have anything in our script.js or our style.css, so it doesn't work. We just have all our basic elements here. We can style it to look exactly like our final output in the next video, and in the video after that we can make it work just like it works in our little app here. So that's it for this video. Please leave comments and please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next